Hello and welcome to Simply Technical. I'm one of your hosts, Evan. Keaton is here with me as your other host consistently. But welcome back. It's been a little bit since we've recorded, so got to get back in the swing of things. Going to start posting
quite a bit more.
We got some series in the works, some guests in the works, some people that are excited to be on. But here we are, and we're going to talk about vacation, actually, and a vacation that we've both been on. I say vacation, but going to Europe.
Yeah.
Traveling in
Europe.
Europe
Trip.
You were on study abroad, though.
Yes, I went on a study abroad trip with OC. It was in 2016, so about 8 weeks of travel, and it was great.
I was there on vacation for 3 weeks with my family. It was also great. Most people don't like to go on vacation with their family, but I love my family, so unlike other people, you never know. But yeah, it was fantastic. So we started out landing in Rome.
Yeah.
Went up to, Venice, and where's the David? Shoot, I'm blanking actually now that we're recording.
The David statue's in Florence.
And Florence and Venice is the other cities we went in Italy. Made our way up into Germany and went to Munich. Picked up a car, actually, so we drove in Europe.
Yeah.
Which is actually our travel agent warned against, but he was all for it.
Wild.
Definitely don't want to drive in anywhere in Italy.
Yeah, no, especially Rome. You go to Rome, it's like the traffic is insane, and they drive like maniacs over there.
But everywhere else seemed fine.
Yeah.
Then from there we went into Switzerland, drove through the Alps. Went to a couple different cities. And there went in, backtrack a little bit into Germany, saw a couple castles.
Yeah.
Went into Amsterdam in the Netherlands, right? And then went on, dropped off our car and took a train to Paris, actually.
Well,
and then flew
that's
out.
A busy trip for 3 weeks.
So we didn't stay besides Paris and Rome, we didn't stay anywhere more than one night.
Yeah.
So, I mean, very fast traveling.
Yeah. So if you were recommending, say someone just had a week, what would you say out of your trip? You got to hit these 3 spots. These are your top 3 spots.
I liked Paris, but it wasn't, I don't think, was on the top.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say. Like I said, I liked it. It was fine. Very busy, very fast-paced, but it's not something I would necessarily recommend to everyone. I mean, it rained while we were there, so it wasn't that big a deal.
Yeah.
I definitely say, like, driving through Switzerland was just fantastic.
Yeah, that's something everyone needs to do, or take a train through Switzerland. Either one of those is...
And you make a couple stops.
Yeah.
But that's a must. It's expensive. It's very expensive.
Yeah.
It's probably the most expensive country there.
I think it's one of the most expensive countries in the world. Like, you will pay $50 for a
meal,
subpar to average meal.
I think with a car we had to pay $20 just to enter the country.
Yeah.
To get some sticker. And then Germany was pretty laid back. I'd say that was the other. And then Florence and Rome would probably be my next ones.
Yeah.
Those are the top 3, I would say.
Yeah.
If you're going to go anywhere, I'd say Rome. There's so much to see in Rome, so much to do.
Yeah.
Which includes the Vatican. And all those Roman sites, basically, with, the stuff you learn about in the history books with the Forum and the Colosseum and the aqueducts, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's what I loved about Rome. It's hectic over there, but it was incredible to see all that history in one spot.
Yeah, there's so much. It's actually pretty well preserved.
Yeah.
And we hired a tour guide.
Yeah.
In Rome. Our travel agent recommended, and I would recommend getting a travel agent, especially somebody, maybe not like a necessarily huge company, but somebody that's on their own.
Yeah.
He has been in Europe probably 15, 20 times. And so he knows, like, local tour guides. And so we hired a tour guide for, I think it was like $100 the day.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff we got to cut the line. Like, going into the Coliseum, there's a long line to get in to buy tickets.
Yeah.
He knew a place to buy the tickets somewhere else. So we went there and bought them. And then we traveled around in a taxi, and we got to cut the lines because he had a tour guide pass, basically. Got to cut the line, and then we show him our tickets, and we go in, and he gives us the rundown of the Coliseum. And there's not a lot of fact about, I say fact, a lot of people don't know what's definite with the Coliseum. So some people say that the Coliseum, parts of it fell because of war. Other people say it fell because of an earthquake, So there's some of that stuff we don't really know about. It might not have been super well documented, but
I remember whenever we were on our tour down there, they talked about how the Coliseum was covered. It was marble. Mm-hmm. It was marble walls, and then people just stripped it of it because marble is extremely valuable. That's a lot of money, so that's another reason a lot of it's
gone.
Ruin. Yeah. Gone.
I mean, it's still fantastic to look at.
Yeah.
Amazing to see how they built it. Because, they don't have cranes. They don't have modern technology to help move these huge, massive stones.
Aliens.
Maybe that's something else we need to look at is the pyramids. And then they put metal spikes in their columns so that they could stack the rocks better, so they wouldn't shift.
That's crazy.
I guess obviously the Romans were known for their.
You like the engineering aspect of it, yeah.
And aqueducts are the same way. Those are just some great things to look at. Great history. I think there's a palace that we looked at in Rome that's kind of close to the Forum. I think it's a palace. A huge house, I think, or for Caesar or whatever. Was just had fountains and stuff in it, which was crazy to me as well. But what would you asked my top 3 places or top places? What would you recommend?
Oh man, so I went to quite a few spots, but my top 3, I would have to say Vienna. Vienna was where we were home based, so I'm biased, and I spent the most amount of time there. But it's an amazing city. The music is incredible, and at the time, I didn't really appreciate being in Mozart and all those great composers. I guess midst pretty much, but it's everywhere. And I really wanted to go back with my wife on our honeymoon. We unfortunately we weren't able to make it to Vienna.
Unfortunately, we only went to Greece.
Yeah, we went to Greece, but I really wish that when I was in Vienna, I would have appreciated the music aspect of it more. But besides that, there's a ton of stuff to do. It's a you can tell the population there is pretty young. It's a touristy place, but also they've got a bunch of residents, and so
this is Vienna, correct?
This is Vienna. Okay. Yeah, so they had a carnival style amusement park, which was a lot of fun. You pay for the rides as you go, which was really cool. That's something that you feel like is sort of from the 70s or something. That's kind of what it felt like. It felt older, which is neat. And then there's just a ton of other museums and art over there that's fantastic. And so I'd say that was probably my favorite or second favorite place. And then the next place I would recommend that's smaller and less known, but it's starting to become a big touristy hotspot, was Lucerne, Switzerland. It was a really beautiful place. It's a picturesque lake in Switzerland that's against the mountains, and it's it's just a really great place to spend a couple days. There's not a ton of activities to do there, but it's a just pretty spot that I feel like if you want to just relax and hang out in Switzerland, it's the ideal spot. And then for my third one, I am a bit torn between a couple places. I'm kind of torn between 3. So I did go on the study abroad trip, and then I also recently got back from Europe from my honeymoon with my wife down in Santorini, Greece, which was amazing. That's by far the prettiest place I've been to, the best place I've been to. It's extremely touristy, especially it's the picturesque white house buildings on the volcano, and you see the sunset. It's beautiful, but it's pretty touristy, so that was really my only downside to it. And it's also very expensive, which was another downside to it. So for me, I would go back, but I'm not gonna go back for a long, long time. So I don't know if I'd put that in my top 3 for returning, but for if I was to go back soon, I'd probably go to Florence or London.
Mm-hmm.
London surprised me because I went into study abroad expecting London to be like
Me
America with crappy food.
and weird accents.
And weird accents. Nice accents, but America with crappy food. And I was very pleasantly surprised because while the food did suck, the food is awful there, but there's so much there. It's like it's incredible to see the
Britain's so small, right?
Yeah, the UK is just this tiny. I mean, it's not tiny, but it's a small island and
Comparative.
yeah, compared to where we're from. But London is just fascinating. There's so much history there. You start out and you see Westminster, you see Big Ben, you see Buckingham Palace, all crammed within, just
square
a couple
mile.
miles of each other, and you could walk to it in a day. Like we walked like everywhere on the first day, and then there's St. Paul's Cathedral, which was incredible. I mean, the architecture is like it's unseen anywhere. I mean, obviously Oklahoma doesn't have the best architecture in the world, but I don't have a great comparison to it, but to me it was the most fascinating architecture in the world. And then just that, so you sit in London, you're on the Westminster side, there's a bridge that crosses over, and it's like a juxtaposition between modern society and the historical society. So there's all these high rises just across the river, across from the incredibly like historic Westminster, St. Paul's, Big Ben, all the classic London English hotspots. So that was fascinating. And then the British Museum is the best museum I've ever been to. It's incredible, the ancient Egyptian relics and all the. I mean, they have so much in there. You could spend days in that place. Unfortunately, on our trip, we were only able to like spend a couple hours, which was probably the biggest bummer of the entire trip. So I'd love to go back and do that again. And then my other place that I was torn between was Florence. Florence is also like Vienna. And London, it's a historic. There's incredible architecture, but it's more like Vienna in the fact that Florence is while Vienna is the city of music, Florence is the city of art. So you see, the David statue, the Uffizi Museum. You see the wait, what is that? I forgot what the big cathedral there is called. I think it's the Duomo. It's been a while, but I mean, it's an incredibly artistic city, and it's all cram packed in just like less than a mile. It's incredible, and the food there. The food in Italy is the best food in the world, in my opinion. They feed you so much, and I don't know anywhere else in the world where it's normal to have 2 entrees. You start out with a pasta, and then you get like a steak or a heavy beef meal after that, which I loved that. It was incredible. But yeah, out of everywhere I've been, those Vienna, London, Florence, and Lucerne are the places I would definitely return to, and Santorini is the place I would love to return to if it was a little bit cheaper. But maybe one day.
Maybe when their economy crashes again.
Yeah. Well, Greece's economy is pretty rough.
Yeah. Maybe it's expensive because it's so touristy, and they're trying to capitalize.
They're trying to capitalize. I mean, you're in the middle. You're in the middle of an island. You have to take a plane that's a 30-minute plane ride from Athens to the island. It's tiny. Like, we stayed on the Ia side, which is the famous side, the famous part of the island, which is all white and beautiful and faces the sunset and all that. But actually, surprisingly, we really enjoyed that. But we might have enjoyed the second half of our trip better when we went to the opposite side of the island on the black sand beach called Kamari. We liked it more. I'm kind of torn between the two. I think Kamari was more enjoyable because it was less busy. It wasn't as pretty over there, but it was less busy, and the locals were so friendly to us. We'd be walking down, And all these dudes are just trying to get us to come into the restaurant. So all they have are there's just restaurants lining the beach. And all these guys are like trying to get you to convince you to come to their restaurant. Like, we'll give you a deal. I'll give you a free wine. And finally we'd be like, okay, how about free wine and free dessert? We'd be like, okay, come in. So we got every single meal we had on the Kamari side, which was 3 days. We got free wine or free dessert or free appetizers. Usually 2 of the 3.
Wow.
It was incredible. And they give you, I mean, they're not like light on the wine. They'll give you 500 mils, which is 2/3 of a normal bottle.
Wow.
so it was.
So Keaton and his wife were a little tipsy the whole trip.
It was a good time. It was cool.
Yeah, that's. I never even. I mean, I've always heard Greece was fantastic, but
Yeah.
I never knew anyone that went. So.
Yeah. My biggest downside of Greece is we spent a day in Athens. And the transportation there is not like the rest of Europe. It is rough. The rest of Europe is very interconnected. The infrastructure of the cities is incredible. And maybe I was just missing it in Athens because it was a more hectic city. It's kind of like Rome. It's very hectic, a little bit poorer than Rome. I might have just been missing the public transportation, but we pay $50 just to get from the airport to our hotel. Then we had to pay $50 more the next morning to get from the hotel to the airport. And it's not even a long drive. It's like 15 miles. I mean, it took 45 minutes because there's traffic, but it's not like an insane drive. And so that was a pain. But if you can avoid Athens and you don't care to see the history of it, which I really cared to see it, but it was hard to get to, so we didn't end up quite getting to see everything we wanted to in Athens. But I would avoid going back there if I could do it again.
Just because of how hectic it was?
Just because of how much money the transportation was. I mean, I added it up. In the end, it was like, I think we spent $300 on taxis and buses. And then we only spent 2.5 days there. Like,
wow.
And I mean,
that's more than $100 a day.
Yeah, in Greece, you can't get around. I mean, in Vienna or Germany, you can kind of get around the language barrier just a little bit because I mean, some of the words relate, and it's German is a more common language, and most of them speak English. But in Greece, man, they have a very different language. That is an ancient language, and it's unlike. There's no relation to how we talk. The words are not the same, and so it got confusing, and it wasn't worth it. And it's such a sketchy place because their economy was trashed within. Yeah. I mean, I don't even remember how long it was because it was like at least within the past 6 or 7 years, I think.
Yeah, I don't know when their economic downturn was.
It was, but it's pretty rough there. Like, you wouldn't want to walk around at night. That's how I felt, but.
I mean, everywhere else, I mean, my family and I, we walked around. I was always very weary because I've always heard horror stories of people getting stuff stolen. But.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of thieves in Europe. I think I was almost a victim of one in Rome. There was an old lady who, it was like, you just have to go to Rome in the middle of the summer. It's like 100 degrees and it's humid down there. This old lady just like passes out. And I went to go help her with some water, and I see these 2 guys come right behind me, and they ended up not doing anything because I had my backpack strapped on my chest, and so they just left. So I'm assuming they were going to rob me because later on, I saw the exact same lady pass out the exact same way, and no one went to help her. So
she's a frequent pass out.
she is the decoy there.
I mean, I always kept my hands in my pockets. I always was very observant.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't care if I look like a nerd. I'll wear the fanny pack over there. Shoot.
But I've heard one of my friends or our friend Seth, when he was on study abroad, somebody got their stuff stolen.
Yeah.
So I mean, you just gotta be weary, and if you're paying attention, if your head's on a swivel, they know to. I mean, avoid you because you're at least somewhat competent.
Yeah.
With looking around.
Yeah.
So we zip tied our backpacks the zippers together.
Yeah.
We strapped we held them because we
strapped
packed
around
light.
your chest and it's.
We packed light, but we carried everything. You get off the train and you walk the half mile or whatever to your hotel.
Yeah.
And so you're pulling your luggage with you. So I mean, you got to be like somewhat, keep your head, like I said, keep your head on a swivel.
Yeah.
But they're in Paris, in Rome, Florence, there was a lot of people selling stuff.
Dude,
like walking around, like trying to sell us, like, hey, here's a laser pointer. Here's a.
I would mess with those guys so much.
I mess with them too.
Every time they'd shine the laser pointer on me, I'd act like they were about to shoot me or something. So I'd be freaking out, and they just thought it was the funniest thing. These guys are like, one of them shines their laser pointer on me, and I'm freaking out. He starts laughing, and he like calls his buddy over, and they're all like start shining their laser pointer on me. I'm like, gosh, you guys suck at selling stuff.
But they're just selling stuff, and I'm sure it's cheap garbage. I guess that's their profession.
Yeah.
Because I was always kind of weary of, and they'll haggle with you. Like you could.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that's their business or they're trying to get you to like somebody to steal your stuff from behind. Or
no, I think it's a legit business. It's just a sucky.
I think some of it's illegal.
Oh really?
Because like, when we were at and around the Eiffel Tower. And maybe it's just in France or maybe just in Paris, but when the police showed up, they all left. Like there was no the police would show up like every couple hours, and they would all just scatter.
Oh yeah.
So like I said, maybe it was just there that was
certain
illegal,
areas they're like not allowed to.
But yeah, when they had laser pointers, I would always like my eyes, la policia,
la policia, la policia.
Like just start shouting it, and they'd like kind of run off. And one guy tried to get me to buy something. He's like €3. I was like, he's like €3, and I was like, no, I only have US dollars. He's like, oh okay, $3 US, and I'm like, how about $1 US? And he's like, sure. And I was like, nah, it's not worth it.
No, I'll tell you, this guy was trying to get me the fake Ray-Bans for €60. And I was like, man, I really want sunglasses. Well, actually, I went up to him because I wanted sunglasses, and so he was like €60 for the fake Ray-Bans, and they look real, but you feel them, and they're obviously fake. And I legitimately, I wasn't trying to haggle. I legitimately only had €5, and I was like, I only have €5, and he's like, here you go.
He'll take anything
from 60 to 5.
What a bargain!
Yeah,
they probably won't even. He probably just was like, American $60 or €60.
That's exactly how they think.
I mean, I'm sure most Europeans just ignore them, and they don't pay them any attention.
Yeah, you learn to say no whenever you go to Europe. You can't be a yes man in Europe and survive.
You'll go broke. But those places are fantastic. I would definitely see some castles. I don't know if you saw any castles.
Yeah, we didn't necessarily see like. I can't remember. We didn't see any famous ones like the one in Germany. That's the Cinderella Castle. We didn't go to that one.
I forgot what it's called.
The place I remember the most castle-wise was Heidelberg, which was very cool because I think
Neuschwanstein. I'm pretty sure is what it's called.
Neuschwanstein, yeah. Because Heidelberg was like a Middle Age or maybe a little bit later castle fortress area that was destroyed in World War II, it wasn't destroyed in World War II. It was one of the only places in Germany that survived. The whole town is still that like semi-ancient.
What'd you call it? Heidelberg?
Heidelberg. I think that's the right one. We only spent a few hours in it, so don't kill me if I'm wrong, but I think that's it.
So my family went. Maybe we're thinking of the same place. There's a wall around the entire city called Rottenburg October. Rottenburg is how Americans pronounce it. I'm sure they pronounce it slightly different.
Yeah.
But it has a wall around the entire place. And I guess the story that they have is that a U.S. general had in World War II, when he was growing up, his grandma had a picture of Rottenburg.
Oh, and he didn't want it.
And he was like, "Oh, I don't." Like they were gonna bomb it, and there's like, no, like don't bomb it. Like I love this city. Yeah. He's never been.
Yeah.
He's like, I love this city, like my grandmother had. So they didn't bomb it, and so that's why they say it survived.
Yeah.
And there might be several other cities like that.
Yeah.
Or maybe not some similar story, but it has a wall around the entire place. I think some of it did get hit, and they had donors pay to like help rebuild. They got their name scratched on one of the bricks, and then they helped rebuild the wall. If you do go there, there's a night watchman tour.
Oh, really?
There's a guy that dresses up as the old night watchman that would walk around the city.
The Night's Watch.
He'd tell just stories of stuff.
Yeah.
Like they have their old well there that they used to drown the witches in.
I wasn't expecting that.
That's what they did.
Yeah.
I mean, they put the witches in there and they drowned them and said, "Oh, I guess they're not witches. They drowned." But it was a neat little town. Nobody drives really. I mean, we drove there, but like in the city, it's small enough that nobody really drives. I mean, we had an 2-hour tour, and we walked around the entire city basically. So it was pretty cool. Got some very nice Wiener Schnitzel there. But I mean, I would recommend that town if you're in Germany. It's just neat. But
Germany's a cool place.
What?
Germany's a cool place. It has a lot of culture.
As my dad described it, and I agree after going there, it's probably the most well-rounded country.
Yeah.
It's not super expensive. It's the most, I would say.
Pretty good food.
It's got pretty good food.
Incredible bakery.
It's the most. I don't want to say urbanized because it's all urbanized, but
yeah, it's the most industrial,
like working class. I mean, because like you go to Switzerland, it's going to be rural. It's going to be expensive, but like Germany is going to good public transportation. A lot of people speak English.
Yes.
If you want to go to the Hofbrauer House. The original, it's there, and I think Munich, we went to that. It's not super sketchy to walk around at night. It's just a good place, just like I said, well-rounded.
Incredible to me that when I visited Germany, how much the thought of how much it had to change since World War II. The idea that, that's just a generation, 2 generations ago, and they've already completely rebuilt this incredible country that seems, extremely inviting.
Yeah.
Which was fascinating for me to think about. So I don't know what their formula is, but they did a good job.
Yeah, and they got a decent, at least, train system there to Munich, because I think Munich is where we picked up our car. But I don't know about the train system and within, but getting there from Italy was not hard. I mean, you take a couple-hour train ride.
Yeah.
I mean, Europe's a lot smaller than people realize.
Oh yeah, gosh, does Texas cover
most of it?
Most of it.
Alaska covers most of it.
Yeah.
I'm sure. So you ride a train and you're like, oh, I've passed 3 countries.
Yeah.
Because let's see, we went from Venice to Munich. And I think it's like a 2-hour drive, or not drive, 2-hour train ride. Their trains go fast. I think we passed. I think Austria was on the way, or drive. I keep saying drive, but train by. I guess is the on a train going by. Watch your stuff on a train. You don't know who's going to steal it.
But yeah, that's true.
You have any other suggestions for going to Europe?
I'll give my biggest suggestion in how my wife and I were able to afford a Santorini trip at, just being post-grad is credit card hacking, I guess is what it's called, is what the podcast I heard about it from calls it. So pretty much there's certain credit cards that have incredible travel rewards, and the credit card that we both got one each, was the Chase Sapphire Preferred, and then you meet this minimum spend. I think it's like $4,000 in 3 months, and obviously it is bad financial advice to go spend $4,000 on something. But to say you have certain expenses that you needed to buy, like a ring or like a car payment, you can meet most of that cost, or you can meet more than that cost in one purchase. Mm-hmm. And so if you're going to be making that purchase anyways, you might as well get the cards, because at that point you hit the 4,000, and then it gives you, I think, 60,000 points that you can easily book a flight for free to Europe. That'll pay for it there and back. I think it's about 32,000 there for a flight there, and then 32 back. I can't remember exactly. And so both of us were able to do that, and we had a crap ton of points. And so if I was to give any advice, I'd say listen to the podcast Choose FI, episode 9. They talk about this way, way, way more in depth, and they have like a list of cards, and they're not just trying to sell you crap. It's legit. As long as you pay back your credit card immediately and you're not getting into debt, you only have things to gain from a credit card. So that's my advice. Dave Ramsey isn't completely right, but he is right in the case that you don't pay back your credit card. If you don't pay back your credit card, it is not worth 60,000 points because 4,000 will build up to, say you don't pay for a year. Gosh, that's at a 20% interest is what?
20% interest? Yikes.
Yeah, it's like $4,800 after a year. You've already lost $800 2 years, and you've lost even more. You've lost the value of the flight easily. So pay your card back right on time before your monthly. Don't pay the minimum. Just don't accumulate any interest, and you'll be fine. And listen to that podcast, because that podcast will enable you to travel pretty much for free if you plan your expenses correctly.
Flight-wise, at least.
Flight-wise, yes. But you can also book hotels through it. But it's not as good. The value add isn't quite as good for a hotel versus a plane. You'll get a lot more value out of a flight.
Okay. And maybe a Europe trip is perfect for that, because if you're flying between two, maybe you're flying around Europe, for whatever reason, and then you're flying back to the United States.
Yeah, and Chase is partners with basically every single airline, so you can transfer those points easily. And then we're trying to probably, I think in December of this year, so pretty much a year from now, we're going to try to get the Southwest Rewards program with our Chase credit card, which at the time is if you meet X amount of points, you in a year span, you can take any person on a Southwest flight for free for an entire calendar year. So if you hit it if you hit it right at the beginning of January, like if you timed it right, you'd have a full year of flights for free for one person.
Wow. So
that's the future goal. If you listen to that podcast, they talk about it way more, and they give you the whole strategy on how to do it.
Check them out.
Yeah.
Keaton's endorsing them. So
I am endorsing them. It's a great podcast, especially for learning a little bit about personal finance. So
maybe we'll do a personal finance. I'm in a Dave Ramsey class, so maybe we can talk about it.
But,
yeah. I'd say Europe is awesome, once in a lifetime trip.
Yeah.
Unless you're just rich. I mean, try to hit as much as you can. See some castles. See historical things that you learned about growing up. Whether that's Greece or Rome. All the different aspects of it. Just fantastic. Don't get your stuff stolen. Pay attention. And enjoy. I mean, just enjoy your trip. I mean, the plane ride does kind of stink a little bit.
Yeah.
Being young, it wasn't too bad because
just
recovery time a little bit.
Pumped up to get there, honestly.
But I know I fell asleep at the Vatican, so because that was our first stop. We got off the plane, checked into the hotel, and went to the Vatican, and I fell asleep outside.
Oh my gosh!
Let's see, Vatican's right next. I say Vatican. St. Peter's Basilica. I fell asleep outside the front.
Yeah.
And a priest got onto me, or somebody got onto me. Bishop. I don't know. I don't know anything about the hierarchy.
I think it was the Pope.
The Pope, walked outside and said, "Hey, stop sleeping at St. Peter's Basilica. Have some respect." Is what he said. This is St. Peter's Basilica. Have some respect. I was like,
"Oh my gosh, welcome to Europe."
I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I just got off a freaking plane."
Dang, that's awesome.
But anyways, if you don't have anything else, then
that's it for me.
Thanks, guys. I know it was a shorter episode, but like, subscribe, follow us on Twitter, Instagram. We're on Instagram now.
Yep.
Facebook. Share us. Tell your friends if you learned something, or if somebody's thinking about doing a Europe trip. Let them know.
Yeah.
We'd really appreciate it. So thanks so much for stopping by. This has been Simply Technical.